All right, so next one here, so we're looking at 16. So again, we have a string of inequalities that we're trying to solve here. So yeah, so you have -5 is less than 3z minus 2, which is less than or equal to 16. All right. Maybe I'll zoom out a bit so that I have a little bit more. You can see a little bit more of the paper. All right. So yeah, so again, first we want to get it so we just have the variable all by itself in the middle here. All right, so first we're going to go ahead and add 2 to each side so we get just the variable expression here. And again, whatever you do to the middle, we have to do to each side of my inequality. So yeah, so here we have -5 plus 2 is going to be -3 is less than 3z, which is less than or equal to 16 plus 2, which is 18. All right, and again, we just want to get it so we have 1z here. So to undo the multiplication, we're just going to divide everything by 3. So yeah, so -3 divided by 3 is going to be -1. So you have -1 is less than z, which is less than or equal to 18 divided by 3, which is going to be 6. And again, it does say it wants us in interval notation. So again, the smallest number that it can be is -1. It can go all the way up to 6. And again, since this is a strict inequality, we're going to use parentheses there. But since it can equal 6, we're going to use brackets on the other endpoint. So yeah, so we have parentheses, -1, comma 6. So yeah, so we want this. Alright, so you got -1, comma 6. Alright. Alright, so again, we have parentheses on the left and bracket on the right. And we have from -1 to 6. There we go. So the next question here, so yeah, so it looks like we are wanting to find the distance. Okay, so your backpacker's guide contains a grid map of Paris with each unit on the grid representing 0.25 kilometers. The Arc de Triomphe is located at -2, -4, and the Les Invalides, don't quote me on that, is located at 4, -6. What is the direct distance, so not walking distance, which you would have to account for bridges and roadways between the monuments in kilometers. Okay. So yeah, so we have -2, -4, and 4, -6. All right, so our first step is we're going to find the distance between these 2 points. Now that's going to get you the unit distance. So again, each unit is 0.25 kilometers. So once we find the unit distance here, we're going to have to multiply by 0.25 to figure out the kilometers there. But yeah, so the first thing we can do is find the distance here. So again, the distance formula is, again, we have the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. All right, so you have x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is -2 squared, plus y2, which is -6, minus y1, which is -4. So 4 minus a -2, so that's going to be 6 squared. And 6 minus a -4, which is going to be -2 squared. So yeah, so you have square root of 36 plus 40, or plus 4. Sorry, getting ahead of myself here. So that's going to be the square root of 40. All right. So yeah, so if you take the square root of 40, we end up with something around 6.3246. So yeah, so since it wants our final answer rounded to 2 decimal places, I'm going to go ahead and round the intermediate stages to 4 decimal places here. All right, so then, yeah, we're going to take the 6.3246. So again, that's the unit distance. So that's how many blocks, like grid blocks, would be. And again, each of those grid blocks represents 0.25 kilometers. So we're just going to take that times 0.25. And that's, again, going to give me my kilometer distance there. So, yeah, so we have 1.58 kilometers. All right. All right, so the next one here, so again, we have an inequality. We have y is less than or equal to 6x plus 6, and y is greater than 5x plus 5. All right, so first, again, it wants us... That's weird. All right, so first, again, it wants us to graph the first inequality. All right, so again, we have a non-strict inequality, so it can equal. So we're going to use a solid line. And again, we can go ahead and look at, so we can use the y-intercept there. So your y-intercept is going to be when your x is 0, so you have 0, 6. And then, let's see. So we have our slope is going to be 6 over 1, so we're going to go up 6 to the right one, or we can also go down 6 and to the left one. So down 6 would be, so yeah, so to the left one would be -1, and down 6 would be 0. So yeah, so that would be my line, y equals 6x plus 6. All right, so again, you can choose a point in either interval. Again, our graph isn't going through the origin, so I'm going to go ahead and use the point 0, 0. So you have 0 is less than or equal to 6, which is true. So yeah, so we're going to include or shade the region that does include that origin. So in this case, that's going to be region A there. All right, and then it wants us to shade or graph the second inequality. So here's the second inequality. So we have y is strictly greater than 5x plus 5. So again, since it can't equal that line, we're going to use a dashed line there. And again, we're going to go ahead and start with the end, or with the y-intercept. So that's going to be at 0, 5. And again, our slope is going to be up 5 over 1. All right, so if you go up 5, that's going to be up to 10. And over 1 is going to be 1 there. All right, so that's going to be my line there. All right, and again, we can use the origin since it's not included on the line. So you have 0 is greater than 5, which is not true. So we're going to shade the other region. So the region doesn't include the origin. So that's going to be region D. All right, and again, when you have and, that means you're going to look at the intersection of the two sets. So again, or means union, and means intersection. All right. So next question here is looking again at an absolute value inequality. So you have 4 times the absolute value of z plus 3 is greater than 16. So again, first you want to get, so we have the absolute value all by itself. So you have the absolute value of z plus 3 is greater than 16 over 4, which is going to be 4. All right, so again, at this point, we're going to split it up. So we could have z plus 3 greater than 4. Again, anything past 4 or more positive after 4 is going to have a larger distance from 0 than 4. All right, and then we could also have z plus 3 is less than negative 4. So yes, anything to the left of negative 4 is also going to have a distance from 0 of greater than 4. All right, so yeah, and we're going to include this or here. So we're going to subtract a 3 from each side. Subtract a 3 here. So we have z is greater than 1, or z is less than negative 7. So yeah, so starting off with the z is less than negative 7. So again, we generally start off with the lower one first. So you have negative infinity. Okay. I'm so used to another program where you can just type out INFTY is and it would understand infinity there. All right. And then we have up to negative 7. And then since these are disjoint, we're going to use the union. And then we have 1, 2, infinity. Right, doesn't like it when I put parentheses in to close it. All right. All right. So we have from negative infinity up to negative 7. And then we have 1 to infinity. All right. So next one here. So we want to express this in slope-intercept form. So we have x plus 6y equals 2y minus 3. All right. So again, we want to solve for y, so we want to get the y by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 2y from each side, and then subtract an x from each side to get the x over on the right here. So you have 6y minus 2y is 4y, and that's going to be negative x minus 3. So then we're just going to divide everything by 4 to get, so we just have a single y. So you have y equals, and yeah, most of the time we have fractions here. We have negative 1/4, and then bring the x up front, minus 3/4. All right. So we're asked to find the equation for the line that passes through the points negative 9, negative 10, and is perpendicular to this line. All right. So yeah, so again, perpendicular means that I'm going to flip the fraction, change the sign on my slope. So my slope here is negative 1/4. So again, I'm going to flip the fraction, so it's going to be 4 over 1, and I'm going to change the sign, so my slope is going to be positive 4 over 1, or simply 4. All right. So yeah, so again, I like using the point slope form to start off here. So we have y minus y1, so we have y plus 10 equals m times x minus x1 So we have 4 times x plus 9. So you can then distribute the 4 through here. So you have y plus 10 equals 4x plus 36. And then to get the y by itself, we can subtract a 10 from each side. So you end up with y equals 4x plus 26. All right. Alright, so next we have the linear inequality. So you have 6y minus 19.2 is less than negative 16 plus 5y. And we're asked to solve this. Alright, so we want to get our y's together and our constants together. So here I'm going to go and subtract the 5y from each side and add 19.2 to each side. So yeah, so you have 6y minus 5y, so that's going to be 1y is less than negative 16 plus 19.2 is going to be 3.2. So yeah, so in interval notation, again, the smallest number that can be is negative infinity, so anything less than 3.2. And the biggest number it can be is 3.2. And since you have a strict inequality, so it can't equal 3.2, we're going to use parentheses on that endpoint as well. Negative infinity, comma, 3.2. Alright, so again, we're going to have parentheses around both endpoints. So we have up to 3.1, 3.2. There we go. Alright, so next we're asked here to find the equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through the following point with a given slope. So yes, we have the point 0, 9 and slope of 8. Alright. So yeah, so again, I generally like to start off with point slope form. So we have y minus 9 equals my slope, so 8 times x plus 0, or minus 0, I guess. So yeah, so you have y minus 9 equals 8x plus 0. So yeah, so then to solve for y, you can just add a 9 to each side. So you have y equals 8x plus 9. Alright. So next up here, we have another example of matrix multiplication. Or maybe the first example of matrix multiplication. Honestly, I can't remember if I've gone through an example of matrix multiplication yet in this. Alright, so yeah, so we have my A, which is 275. And we're multiplying that times B, which is negative 10, negative, or positive 1, negative 5. Alright. Alright, so first off here, so here we have, this is a, so we have 1 row and 3 columns. And then this matrix has 3 rows and 1 column. So we have 1 by 3 multiplied by 3 by 1. Again, in order for the product to exist, the two inner dimensions need to equal one another. In this case, that is true. And then my product is going to be a matrix that consists whose rank or order is the outer dimensions. So in this case, it's going to be a 1 by 1, or simply an entry matrix there. All right. So to find what that entry is, so again, we're going to march across the rows here and down the column here. All right, so you have 2 times negative 10 plus 7 times 1 plus 5 times negative 5. So this is going to be negative 20 plus 7 minus 25. So negative 20 plus 7 is going to be negative 13. Minus 25 is going to be negative 38, I believe. All right, so we're asked here to find the equation of a line that passes through the point negative 4, negative 3, and is parallel. So we represent parallel by these kind of 2 vertical lines here, which you cannot see because, there we go. So parallel to, we have 3/4 x plus 17/4. All right. All right, so again, parallel lines are going to have the same slope. So the slope of the parallel line is going to be the same as the slope of my original line, so 3/4. All right, so again, I'm going to start off with point slope form. So we have y minus y1, so that's going to be y plus 3, equals 3/4 times x minus x1, so that's going to end up being x plus 4. All right, so I'm going to go and distribute the 3/4 through here. So you have y plus 3 equals 3/4 x plus 3/4 times 4, which is also 3. So we're going to subtract a 3 from each side. So you end up with y equals 3/4 x. Again, technically plus 0, but again, we don't need to include that plus 0. So yeah, so we have y equals 3/4 x. There we go. All right. So next one here, so again, we have a system of equations. So in this case, we have kind of a scenario where we're dealing with a system of equations. So yeah, so we have admission for a baseball game is $2 for general admission and $6.50 for reserved seats. All right. So yeah, so the receipts were $3,331.50 for 930 paid admissions. So when we take general plus reserved, we end up with 930 paid admissions there. And then when we talk about the cost, we have $2 times however many general admission tickets we sold, plus $6.50 times however many reserved tickets we sold, and that's going to end up equaling the total receipts. So $3,331.50. All right, and this is a G, not a 6. All right, so yeah, so again, we have a coefficient of 1 in for my variables up here. So again, most of the time when we have a coefficient of 1, I tend to favor substitution. So I'm going to go and use substitution here. All right. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just substitute. Yeah, I'll go ahead and solve for G here. So you can subtract an R from each side. So you have G is going to be 930 minus R. So you have 2 times 930 minus R plus 650 times R equals 3,331.50. All right, so we can distribute this through here. We have 2 times 930, so that's going to be 1,860 minus 2r plus 650r equals 3,331.50. So we subtract 1,860 from each side. And negative 2r plus 650r. So that's going to be 450 times r. And 331.50. So we got 0, 5, 1. Power from 3, that becomes 13. So we have 7. Power from 3, that becomes 12. So we have 1,471.50. All right, so then to solve for r, we can just divide both sides by 450. All right, so 1,471.50 divided by 450. I end up with 327 reserved tickets. So r is going to be 327. And again, once we know what r is, we can figure out what the general admission, how many general admission tickets there were, by taking 930 minus r. So you have 930 minus 327 is going to be 603. So yeah, so we have 603 here, and we have 327 there. All right. So next we're asked to find the slope between these 2 points. So here we have the 2 x values are the same. So when your 2 x values are the same, your slope is going to be undefined. Because again, you have the change in your y values divided by the change in your x values. So if there's no change in your x values, you're dividing by 0, and that's what leads to an undefined slope there. So yeah, so again, your slope here would be, again, the change in your y values, so negative 11 minus 0, divided by the change in your x values, so negative 8 minus a negative 8. So you have negative 11 over 0, which again, you can't divide by 0, so that's where we get undefined. All right. So next is determining the order of the matrix. So again, the order of the matrix, so again, just remember Roman Catholic. So you have the number of rows, and then your x, and then the number of columns. All right, so in this case, we have 2 rows and 3 columns. 1, 2 rows, 1, 2, 3 columns. So our matrix is going to be a 2 by 3. All right, so the value of C11, so again, I know that this is C11, not C11. So you have, again, Roman Catholic, so again, we have the row and then the column. So in row 1, column 1, the value of the entry is going to be negative 13. And then the value of the entry in row 2, column 2, so you have row 2, column 2 is going to be negative 14. All right. So next here, we have negative 5 times 1, or negative 5, 1, negative 1, and then we're multiplying this guy by 0, 8, negative 6, 9, 5, 5. All right, so this is a 1 by 3. So we have 1 row, 3 columns. And here we have 3 rows by 2 columns. So again, in order to multiply, your 2 inner dimensions need to be the same. So this is going to be, the product is going to exist, and it is going to be a 1 by 2 matrix. All right, so yeah, so to find those entries, again, we're just going to march across the row and then down the corresponding columns. So starting off with the first column here, so we have -5 times 0, so that's going to be 0, plus 1 times -6, so that we're at -6, plus -1 times -5, times 5, sorry. So that's going to end up being -5, so we have -6 plus a -5, so that's going to be -11. And then for the second column here, we have -5 times 8 is going to be -40, plus 1 times 9, so that's going to be plus 9, so we're at -31, plus -1 times 5 again, so we have -31 plus a -5, so that's going to be -36. So we have -11, -36. All right. All right, so next we're asked to use the method of substitution to solve the following equations. If the system is dependent, express the solution in terms of one of the variables. We have all fractional answers in fraction form. All right. -40, and we have 2x plus 5y equals -38. All right. So yeah, so again, I don't care whether you use substitution or elimination. In this case, substitution is actually easier because we can solve this equation for y just by dividing each side by 5. So you end up with y equals -8. And then once we've solved for y, we can just plug that into my second equation to figure out what x has to be. So you have 2x plus 5 times -8 equals -38. So you have 2x minus 40 equals -38. So then we can add 40 to each side. So you have 2x equals 2. Divide by 2. So you have x equals 1. So yes, in this case there's one solution, and that's going to be 1, -8. All right. All right. So this next one here is just kind of reading and interpreting what slope-intercept form means. Probably won't need to write anything down here. All right. So yeah, so first we're asked, we have this equation, so we have y equals 3 over 2x plus 3. All right, so first we're asked to find the slope. So again, your slope is whatever you're multiplying your x by. So whatever is in front of your x, that's going to be your slope. Ah. And then your y-intercept, so again, the x-coordinate of your y-intercept is going to be 0. And then whatever you're adding or subtracting here, that's going to be the y-coordinate of your y-intercept. So my y-intercept in this case is going to be 0, 3. All right, so then we're asked to plot this. So my y-intercept is going to be at 1, 2, 3. So 0, 3. And then we have our slope is 3 over 2, so we can go up 3 over 2. So we got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Maybe. Oh, we're just have to plot the right intercept. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we go up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 2. There we go. Alright, that's a weird way of doing it. Alright. So next, again, we have a system of equations here. Alright. So yeah, so in this case, we have a system of equations. 1 second, I'm going to grab a quick drink here. Alright. So yeah, so we're asked to use substitution. So to start off, we can just divide everything here by 2 to get it so we have a 1 as a coefficient in front of our variables. So yeah, so you have x plus y equals -1. So yeah, so then we can just solve for one of our variables. So I'm just going to go ahead and solve for x. So you can subtract a y from each side. And again, we can take this and plug it in for x in our second equation there. So you have 4 times -1 minus y plus 4y equals -4. So we have -4 minus 4y plus 4y equals -4. So you can add a 4 to each side. So you end up with 0y, because -4 plus 4 gets me 0. So you end up with 0y equals 0. Now again, if you end up with 0 times your variable equaling a non-zero number, that's when you know you have an inconsistent equation. So your answer is going to be the empty set. When you have 0 times your variable equals 0, then that's when you know you have a dependent system. Alright, so let's see, express the solution set in terms of one of the variables. Alright, so for a dependent system, you're going to go ahead and have one of your variables be a wildcard. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and let the y be the wildcard since I've already solved for x in terms of y. So again, x equals -1 minus y. So y is going to be my wildcard. And then my x is going to be -1 minus y. And again, we have y as an element of the real numbers. So yeah, so one possible solution is I could have y equals 0, and then my x would be -1. Another possible solution is I could have y equals -1, and then my x would end up being 0. So yeah, so you have an infinite number of solutions, but they all have to have this form. Alright. Alright. And we have 5x plus 8y equals -17. Alright. And yeah, again, we're asked to use the method of substitution. So again, with substitution, I'm going to go ahead and solve the first equation for x. So again, if you have a coefficient of 1 in front of one of your variables, that's going to be the one that you're going to solve for. So yeah, so here you can subtract a 4y from each side. So yeah, so you have x equals -13 minus 4y. And again, we're just going to take this and we're just going to plug it in for x in my second equation there. So you have 5 times -13 minus 4y plus 8y equals -17. So I'm going to go ahead and start off just by distributing the 5 through. So you have negative 65 minus 20y plus 8y equals negative 17. So yeah, so then I can add 65 to each side here. Negative 20 plus 8y, that's going to end up being negative 12y. So yeah, so we have negative 17 plus 65. So let's see, that would be 48, I think. So we can divide both sides by negative 12. And we end up with y equals negative 4. And again, once I have y, I can plug that back in up here to solve for x. So yeah, so you have x is going to be negative 13 minus 4 times negative 4, which, so you have negative 13 minus negative 16, which is going to be positive 3. So we have only one solution, and that solution is going to be 3, negative 4. And again, as I mentioned during class, if you're ever curious as to whether you have the right answer with these ones, you can always go back and just plug in 3m for x and negative 4m for y, and you should end up with true statements for each of those equations. So if you end up with statements that are not true, so for example, if you ended up with 12 equals negative 13, then you know you probably made a mathematical error somewhere along the way. All right. Okay. Next we have, again, graphing linear inequalities. Alright. So yeah, so again, we have strictly less than, so we're going to use a dashed line. And I'm going to go ahead and find each of my intercepts. So to find your x-intercept, again, that's going to be where your y equals 0. So my y is going to equal 0 there. So if I cover up the 7y, I have 2x and 14. So divided by 2, I end up with 7 for my x-intercept there. And then for my y-intercept, again, that's going to be where my x value is 0. So when I cover up the 2x here, I have 7y and 14. So dividing by 7 gets me 2 there. All right. And then again, you can choose a point in either region here. Again, since the origin is not going through my line here, I can choose the origin. So when I take 2 times 0 plus 7 times 0, I end up with 0 is less than 14, which is true. So I'm going to shade the region that includes the origin, which in this case is region A. All right. Okay. Times 3 minus x. All right, so you have this equation here, and we're asked to express this in slope-intercept form. So again, I'm going to go and start up just by distributing negative 3 through here. So you have 6y minus 14 equals negative 9 plus 3x. So I can add 14 to each side here. So you have 6y equals negative 9 plus 14. So that would be 5 plus 3x. All right, and then we can just divide everything by 6. So we end up with y. And again, most of the time we have the x part listed first, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So 3/6, so that's the same as 1/2. Divide top and bottom by 3, plus 5/6. Have x plus 5/6. All right, and then here again, we're asked to find the equation of the line that passes through the point, -5, -4, and is parallel to this line. All right, so again, parallel means that it has the same slope. So yeah, so in this case, my slope is going to be positive 1/2. Alright, so again, we can start with point slope form. So you have y minus y1, so y minus negative 4 is going to end up being y plus 4, equals m, which is 1/2. Then we have x minus x1, so minus the negative 5 is going to be x plus 5. Alright, so you can distribute the 1/2 through. It's 1/2 x plus 5/2, which this is 2.5. So then we can subtract a 4 from each side. So we have y equals 1/2 x, and then we have 2.5 minus 4. So that's going to be minus 1.5. We'll see if it likes that. Y equals 1/2 x, x minus 1.5. Alright, so next here we're asked to find the distance between 2 points. So we have the points 8, negative 10, and 2, negative 5. Alright, so again, the distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Alright, so you have x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is 8. So you have 2 minus 8 squared plus negative 5 minus negative 10 squared. So you have 2 minus 8, so that's going to be negative 6 squared, plus negative 5 minus negative 10, so that's going to be negative 5 plus 10, so that's going to be 5 squared. So you have 36 plus 25, it's 36 plus 25, let's see, that's going to be 61, so you have square root of 61. Alright, we'll see if it likes that. Alright, so then we're asked to find the midpoint between the 2 points. Alright, so again, the distance is going to be a number, the midpoint is going to be a point. So the formula for the midpoint is you're just going to take your 2 x values, add them together and divide by 2, so find the average of your x values, and then your 2 y values, added together, divide by 2. So again, find the average of your y values. So yeah, so you have x1 is going to be 8 plus x2, which is 2, over 2. And then we have y1, which is negative 10, plus y2, which is negative 5, over 2. So yeah, so here we have 10 over 2, which is going to be 5. And here we have negative 15 over 2. Alright. And some of this is just to kind of see what I can get away with, so we'll see if it likes improper fractions. Alright. Alright, so here we're asked to find the equation for the line in standard form that passes through these points. So here you'll notice that My x-coordinate is the same. So when your x-coordinate is the same, your equation is just going to be x equals whatever that x-coordinate is. Likewise, if your y-coordinates are the same, your equation is just going to be y equals whatever your y-coordinate is. There. All right. All right. So yeah, so here, next one here, so we have 37. All right. So you have an advertiser goes to the printer and is charged $71 for 200 copies. Service cost Y. Okay, so X is copies and Y is cost. All right. So yeah, so we're asked to determine this linear equation. All right, so again, we're going to determine the 2 points there. So yeah, so if you have 200 copies, it costs $71. And if we have 350 copies, the cost is going to be $80. All right. So yeah, so first we're going to find our slope. So again, your slope is going to be the change in your y values. So 80 minus 71 divided by the change in my x values, which is going to be 350 minus 200. So 80 minus 71 is going to be 9. 350 minus 200 is going to be 150. Which we can simplify this. 3 goes into both these. So that'd be 3 over 50. Or if you prefer decimals, that would be 0.06. Alright, so yeah, so you have y minus 71 equals m. So I'm going to go ahead and use the decimal here. And then we have x minus 200. Alright. So yeah, so we have y minus 71 equals 0.06x. And then 0.06 times 200. So that's 6 hundredths times 200. So that's just going to end up being 12. Because we have 6 for each 100, and then we have 2 hundredths. So yeah, so we have minus 12. Alright. So then we can add 71 to each side. So we have y equals 0.06x plus 71 minus 12 is going to be 59. Alright. So yeah, so here again we're asked kind of what these things mean. Alright. So yeah, so the slope, again, is the cost divided by the copies. So the slope represents the additional cost to be paid for each additional printed copy. So yeah, so here we have kind of our base cost is 59. And then for each copy, it's 6 cents more. So slope represents the additional cost that must be paid for each additional printed copy. Alright. Two x, 2y, 2z equals 54, 90, and 0. Alright. Okay. So yeah, so here again we're subtracting two matrices, but first we also have scalar multiplication occurring as well. So yeah, so here we have 4 times 3x. So that's going to be, so you have 12x minus 3 times 2x, so minus 6x. So that's going to be my first entry there. Here we have negative y, or negative 4y, sorry. We have to take 4 times that. And then we have minus 3 times 2y, so that's going to be minus 6y. And then finally we have 4 times 3z, which is going to be 12z. And then we have negative 3 times 2z, so that's going to be minus 6z. And this is going to equal 24, 90, and 0. Alright, so then we can just set each entry equal to the corresponding entry of our matrix there. So we have 12x minus 6x, so that's going to be 6x, and that's going to equal 24. So we can divide both sides by 6. We end up with x equals 4. Alright, so then we have negative 4 minus 6y, so that's going to be negative 10y equals 90. So let me divide both sides by negative 10, so we end up with y equals negative 9. And then here we have 12z minus 6z, so that's going to be 6z equals 0. Divide by 6, so we end up with z equals 0. So we have x equals 4, y is negative 9, and z is 0. Alright. So in a class in which the final course grade depends entirely on the average of 4 equally weighted 100-point tests, Brad has scored 87, 79, and 78 on the first 3. Alright, so what range of scores on the 4th test will give Brad a C for the semester, which is an average between 70 and 79 inclusive? Alright, so we want the average to be greater than or equal to 70 and less than or equal to 79 on there. Alright, and we have the first 3 tests are 87, 79, and 78. Alright, so again, the average is what we get when we take all 4 tests, so we have 87, and add them together, plus 79, plus 78, plus, we'll say F for the 4th test, not that's the grade he's getting, and then we divide that by 4. Alright, this has to be in between 70 and 79, again, inclusive there. Alright, so first I'm going to get rid of the 4 in the denominator, so I'm just going to multiply each side by 4. So we have 4 times 70 is going to be 280. And then when we take 87 plus 79 plus 78, so 87 plus 79, so that's, well, let's go ahead and write this out here. 87, 79, 78. So 7 plus 9 is 16, plus 8 is 24. 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 7 is 17, plus 7 is 24. So we have 244 plus F. So that's equal to 79 times 4. So yeah, so this is times there. So yeah, 79 times 4. So 80 times 4 is going to be 320. And then we have 1 less 4. So that's going to be, so we have 320 minus 4. So that's going to be 316. Alright. So then to figure out what the grade is, we can subtract 244 from each side. So 280 minus 244, so that's going to be 36. So less than or equal to F, which is less than or equal to 316 minus 244. So that's going to be 6. Oh wait, we don't need to borrow. That's going to be 2. We do need to borrow for this one though, so that's going to become 11. So you have 11. So yeah, so you have 36 to 72 inclusive. I think. All right, last one here. All right. So we have 5p minus 8 is less than 3 plus 7p. All right. So I'm going to go and subtract 7p from each side. Most of the time I like to have my variable on the left. That's just kind of how we're used to looking at things. So I'm going to go ahead and add 8 to each side as well. So you have 5p minus 7p, so that's going to be negative 2p, is less than 3 plus 8, which is 11. So you can divide both sides by negative 2. And again, whenever I multiply or divide by a negative, I have to flip the inequality symbol. So you have p is greater than negative 11 over 2, or negative 5.5. Alright, so here the lowest p can be is negative 5.5, and this just has to be greater than that, so the highest it can be is up to negative infinity, or up to infinity. Alright. Negative 5.5 up to infinity. Alright. Moment of truth here. Let's see how we get. Uh-oh. Alright. Ah! Okay. Alright, so let's see. Really screwed up on question 1? Oh boy. Let's see here. Okay. So we have point is 86, slope is 1, yep. So we have y minus 6 equals 1. Ah! I see what I did. This should be an 8. Yeah, this is x1. Silly mistake there. Alright. Alright. Let's see, what else did I get wrong? Alright, if that happens to you, I will count that right. Alright, same thing happened there. Looks like everything else looks good. Alright, so yeah, so again, that's just a matter of me not reading the question carefully enough there. Alright, so again, hopefully you found this helpful. Yeah, have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye now.